love the Ravens as much as we do, then smash that subscribe button and stay locked in with Flock News for all the drama, updates, and excitement all season long. This unbelievable twist has sent shockwaves through the entire league, and it feels like one of those moments where you stop, rewind, and ask yourself if what you just heard is real or just another wild rumor. Floating around locker rooms and back channels, the Baltimore Ravens, a franchise already known for thriving in chaos and feeding off doubt, are suddenly being linked to Terry McLaurin in a move that, if it truly materializes, completely reshapes the emotional and tactical landscape of the playoff race. This is not just about adding another talented receiver to the roster. This is about the message it sends, the confidence it injects into the building, and the psychological punch it throws at every contender watching from a distance. People around the league are whispering that Baltimore's front office has been quietly aggressive, probing situations, feeling the temperature, and waiting for the right moment to strike. McLaurin's name surfacing in these conversations feels like lightning cutting through a cloudy sky, because it suggests the Ravens are no longer content with incremental upgrades. They want a weapon that tilts coverage, commands respect before the snap, and changes how defensive coordinators sleep at night. Even as a rumor, the idea alone forces defenses to rethink how they would line up against Baltimore, because McLaurin's presence is not theoretical talent, it is proven impact, consistency under pressure, and an identity that matches the Ravens' hunger to control games on their terms. When you imagine Terry McLaurin in a Ravens uniform, the first thing that jumps out is how perfectly his skill set complements what Baltimore already does best. This is not about forcing a square peg into a round hole. This is about synergy, timing, and a shared mentality built on toughness and precision. McLaurin thrives on sharp routes, sudden separation, and winning battles that look impossible on paper. Pair that with an offense that demands discipline from defenses, one that punishes hesitation and exploits even the smallest misalignment. And you start to see why this rumor has legs. Baltimore's system has always valued receivers who block with intensity, who understand spacing, and who don't disappear when the game becomes physical. McLaurin checks all those boxes in a way that feels almost too perfect to be accidental. Insiders suggest that coaches love his professionalism, his approach to preparation, and his ability to elevate the quarterback's confidence. The idea floating around is that this move would not just add yards or highlight plays, but would stabilize crucial moments, especially when games tighten and every snap feels like a test of nerve. In those moments, having a receiver who runs the right route every time becomes priceless. From a locker room perspective, the speculation around McLaurin joining the Ravens carries just as much weight as the on-field implications. Baltimore has built a culture around accountability, resilience, and quiet confidence. McLaurin's reputation fits seamlessly into that identity. He is not known for chasing headlines or stirring controversy, but for earning respect through consistent effort and leadership by example. Sources close to the situation whisper that veterans in Baltimore would welcome him not as an outsider, but as a missing piece who instantly belongs. That kind of acceptance matters, especially late in a season when fatigue and pressure expose fractures in less stable teams. The Ravens thrive when everyone pulls in the same direction, and a player like McLaurin could amplify that sense of unity. Younger players would benefit from watching how he prepares, how he handles adversity, and how he responds when defenses key in on him. Even as a rumor, the potential ripple effect inside the locker room is massive, because belief spreads fast when players sense the organization is fully committed to winning now. The strategic implications of this possible move are where things really start to feel dangerous. For the rest of the league, defenses already struggle to account for Baltimore's multifaceted attack, which forces opponents to defend every inch of the field. Adding McLaurin would stretch those responsibilities to a breaking point. Safeties would be forced into tougher decisions, linebackers would face impossible coverage assignments, and corners would have to survive on islands far more often. This is not just about deep routes or explosive plays, but about how McLaurin's presence would open space for everyone else. Running lanes become wider, intermediate routes become cleaner, and play action becomes even more devastating. Coaches around the league are rumored to be quietly uneasy about this scenario because it represents a nightmare from a game planning standpoint. You cannot simply focus on stopping one aspect of the Ravens' offense anymore. You would be forced to pick your poison, and no option would feel safe. There is also a psychological warfare element. at play here that should not be underestimated when a team like Baltimore is linked to a high-caliber player such as McLaurin. It sends a clear signal to rivals that complacency is not an option. It creates urgency, anxiety, and second-guessing. Opposing front offices start asking whether they have done enough, whether they should respond, whether they are falling behind. Players feel that pressure too, even if they never admit it publicly. The rumor alone can shift the emotional balance of the playoff race, because momentum is not just built on wins, but on perception and confidence. Baltimore embracing a bold move narrative reinforces the idea that they believe their window is open and that they are willing to act decisively. That belief can be contagious, fueling performances that go beyond X and O's, of course. It is important to remember that this remains a rumor, a speculative thread woven together by league chatter and educated guesses. But sometimes rumors reveal intent even before they become reality. The Ravens being connected to Terry McLaurin suggests ambition, clarity, and a refusal to stand still while others make moves. Whether or not this deal ultimately happens, the conversation itself tells us something profound about where Baltimore sees itself. They are not satisfied with being competitive. They are chasing dominance, and they are willing to dream big to get there. If this rumor turns into reality, the entire playoff picture could tilt overnight. If it does not, the message has still been sent, and the league has been put on notice that the Ravens are thinking bigger than ever. As we transition into the second part of this discussion, the ripple effects of this potential move continue to grow, because the story does not end with Baltimore and McLaurin alone. Every major shift creates secondary reactions, and this rumored acquisition could trigger a chain of adjustments. Across the conference, teams chasing playoff positioning would be forced to recalibrate their expectations, because the margin for error shrinks when a contender upgrades its firepower in such a dramatic way. Coaches would spend long nights imagining scenarios where McLaurin lines up in different formations, motioning across the field, forcing defenses to communicate perfectly or pay the price. The Ravens have always been a team that capitalizes on confusion, and adding a receiver with McLaurin's intelligence and versatility only magnifies that threat. This is why the rumor feels heavier than most. It is not flashy speculation without substance. It is a move that makes too much sense, which is often the most dangerous kind. One of the most fascinating angles here is how this potential pairing could redefine the narrative around Baltimore's offensive identity. For years, critics have tried to box the Ravens into a simplistic label, underestimating the sophistication of their approach. Bringing in McLaurin would be a statement that balance and adaptability matter just as much as physical dominance. It would show a willingness to evolve without abandoning core principles. McLaurin's ability to win at multiple levels of the field would give Baltimore flexibility to attack matchups week after week, rather than relying on a single blueprint. This adaptability is crucial in playoff football, where familiarity breeds tighter margins and surprises become harder to manufacture. A receiver who can create separation through precision rather than just speed becomes invaluable in those moments. That is why this rumor resonates so strongly with analysts who understand the deeper layers of the game. Another layer worth exploring is the impact this move could have on Baltimore's quarterback, whose growth and confidence are central to the team's ambitions. Having a receiver like McLaurin is not just about adding production, it is about trust. Quarterbacks play faster and freer when they know exactly where a receiver will be and believe he will fight for every ball. That trust can unlock throws that might otherwise stay in the playbook. It can turn hesitation into decisiveness, which is often the difference between a good offense and a great one. People close to the Ravens suggest that the coaching staff values receivers who can be extensions of the quarterback's mind on the field, adjusting routes and reading coverage in sync. McLaurin's football intelligence makes him a natural fit for that role, which only adds fuel to the speculation. From the defensive perspective, opponents would face a brutal dilemma if this move comes to fruition. Do you allocate extra resources to contain McLaurin, risking exposure elsewhere? Or do you trust your corners in isolation and hope for the best? Neither option feels comfortable. Baltimore thrives when defenses are forced into uncomfortable choices, because that hesitation is exactly what their offense exploits. The rumor of McLaurin joining the Ravens amplifies that discomfort, because it suggests a level of completeness that few teams can match. Even elite defenses rely on predictability to some extent, and this move would strip away much of that comfort. Preparing for Baltimore would become a test of endurance as much as strategy, because the stress would not let up snap after snap. The emotional weight of this rumor also extends to the fan base, which has been buzzing with anticipation and cautious optimism. Supporters understand that not every rumor becomes reality, but they also recognize when an idea aligns perfectly with a team's trajectory. The thought of McLaurin catching passes in crucial moments has ignited imaginations, sparking debates and dream scenarios. That energy matters, because fan belief often mirrors what players feel inside the building. When excitement builds organically around a rumor, it suggests that people sense momentum, that something big could be unfolding. The Ravens have always drawn strength from their connection with their supporters, and this speculation only deepens that bond. Ultimately, whether Terry McLaurin actually becomes a Raven or not, this rumor has already achieved something powerful. It has reframed how the league views Baltimore's intentions and ceiling. It has forced contenders to pay attention and fans to lean forward. It has reminded everyone that championships are often won not just through talent, but through boldness and timing. If this move happens, it could redefine the playoff race in ways that ripple far beyond one team. If it does not, the Ravens have still declared, without saying a word, that they are thinking bigger, dreaming louder, and refusing to play it safe. And in a league where hesitation is punished, that mindset alone can change everything. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The conversation around this potential move continues to grow because rumors like this rarely exist in a vacuum. When a franchise with Baltimore's reputation becomes linked to a player of Terry McLaurin's caliber, it tends to reflect internal conversations that are already happening behind closed doors. Front offices do not casually allow names like this to circulate without at least exploring the feasibility. That is why many around the league believe this rumor speaks to a deeper sense of urgency. Within the Ravens organization, there is a feeling that the window is not something to admire from afar, but something to attack with conviction. McLaurin represents reliability in moments where chaos usually reigns, and that reliability is exactly what separates teams that merely reach the postseason from those that survive it. The Ravens have long embraced physicality and discipline, but adding a receiver known for composure and consistency under pressure would introduce a new layer of calm confidence. That combination is dangerous because it allows a team to weather storms without abandoning its identity. Even if this remains speculation, the mere plausibility of it reveals a franchise thinking several steps ahead, anticipating not just how to get there, but how to endure once the pressure intensifies. Another reason this rumor refuses to fade is the broader landscape of the conference, which feels unusually volatile and unforgiving. Margins are thin, confidence swings wildly, and one decisive addition can tilt the balance of power. McLaurin joining Baltimore would not simply be a roster tweak. It would be a strategic declaration that the Ravens are prepared to meet fire with fire in matchups where defenses dare them to throw. The presence of a receiver who thrives in contested situations changes the conversation entirely. Coaches would be forced to acknowledge that conservative game plans would no longer suffice. Aggression would be required, and aggression invites mistakes. The Ravens have always been opportunistic, thriving when opponents press and overextend. This rumored move aligns perfectly with that philosophy. It is not about playing safe football, but about creating scenarios where opponents feel compelled to take risks. In that sense, McLaurin is more than a target. He is a catalyst, someone whose reputation alone alters behavior before the ball is even snapped. What ultimately makes this speculation so compelling is how seamlessly it fits into a larger narrative of evolution rather than desperation. The Ravens are not rumored to be chasing McLaurin because they are broken or incomplete, but because they are ambitious. There is a difference between patching holes and sharpening weapons, and this feels very much like the latter. McLaurin's potential arrival would symbolize refinement, a polishing of an already formidable machine. It suggests confidence in the foundation and a willingness to enhance it with precision rather than overhaul it out of panic. Fans and analysts alike sense that distinction, which is why this rumor carries weight instead of skepticism. It feels intentional, calculated, and rooted in a clear understanding of what wins when the stakes rise. Whether or not this move ever becomes official, the idea itself has already reshaped expectations. It has reminded everyone watching that the Ravens are not content with being part of the conversation. They are trying to control it, bend it, and ultimately define it on their own terms. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.